Hello and happy Monday. So we are doing Make It Monday with Hello, my name is Beck, popping in today to make a beautiful butterfly. So I have my Distress Oxide inks and my blending brushes just above me. And then I have all these beautiful stencils that actually create a really lovely butterfly. So the first ink I'm using is the pink, which is a picked raspberry. I'm just going through the stencil here and popping that onto the Nina Solar white cardstock underneath. So then the next one I will be using is Carved Pumpkin, which is the orange, and that's going to be the middle set of wings of this butterfly. So I will admit to you guys that I have done this butterfly before this video that I'm filming, and what happened was it wasn't as beautiful as I expected, but that's because I did it a different way. So I will show you the end result of this one and then the end result of the one that I've done prior to this this video that I'm filming. So that was mustard seed there, the yellow. So we have pink, orange and yellow, and then I'm coming in with the accents with a candied apple, which is the red, and that's going up on the top pink, but because it's going on top of the pink, it blends. And then I'm using the carved pumpkin to go on top of the mustard seed. So you'll see here that even though I've used a bright red, it has actually turned more a raspberry pink. And then I go in with the orange again to add another layer on the middle wings. And I'm using the candied apple and then coming over with picked raspberry for the body of the butterfly. I do think I should have gone further with the accent on the orange wings and probably maybe added a yellow or even a touch of red. So I have finished the overall look of the butterfly there, and I have to let it dry because oxide inks are very wet, and so this is a couple of hours later, as you can tell by the daylight that has actually changed. What I did was I spent time cleaning my craft room, and so I then come back a couple of hours later to the same position. So I'm going to test to see whether it's dry. Best way to test to see whether it's dry is to use the embossing powder straight on the ink, and if it all falls off, you know that you actually have a good chance of embossing the butterfly really well. If it doesn't, then you know that you have to let it dry a little bit longer. You can actually come in with a heat gun, but it does actually change the effect of the oxides when it's drying. So I'm using my anti-static powder tool there to go on top of the image so that when I stamp on it, it's not going to have any embossing powder stick to the wrong places, because I want it to stick to the places where I'm stamping. So I'm lining up the beautiful stamp that comes with the set of stencils and also a die, using my watermark ink from Versamark and inking up the stamp. So this literally is a clear ink, but it's sticky, so it helps you have the embossing powder stick to the ink. So but when you see me peel up the stamp or pick up the stamp on the stamping platform, you will see the little lines there, which is the watermark. So I'm going straight on with the embossing powder. I'm not letting that dry, giving it a chance to dry. It needs to be wet to cling to the embossing powder. So it's a gold embossing powder, even though that looks quite like a dirty brown, but what I have is a lovely gold from Poppy Embossing, I think. And then so I'm just going to tap off the embossing powder, and that's the overall look there of the butterfly. I'm just going to pour the remaining embossing powder back into the pot, and that is a lot easier made by that baking paper that I have underneath. I find sometimes if you just use a normal A4 piece of paper that the embossing powder sticks, but the baking paper lets it slide straight off. So I do have a couple of straggler, I think they're like fine line embossing things that basically if I embossed or used the heat tool, it would show up. So I'm just using my craft knife to just wipe those away, and then I'm just getting my heat tool here. You can see me plugging it in on the left hand side and spending some time waiting for that to heat up. So it's heated up, and then I realized that there's a bit that I missed next to the antenna, so I quickly come in to scrape that away with my craft knife. Otherwise I would have had a lovely solid gold line off the antenna of the butterfly. So I'm heating both sides of the paper so that it doesn't warp, or doesn't warp as much, because it will always warp. And then I'm just going over the gold to melt it, and you see here the effect. Now, so I do bring in the other butterfly, and you can see what I did was I actually embossed it first and then came over with the oxide inks afterwards. Now, what happened there is the oxide ink sat on the embossing powder, and I tried to wipe the embossing powder to let the gold, but then it just made a very, very murky colour. So that's something that I didn't want. And so I'm bringing in the dye here. What I just showed you there was the white edge of the dye wasn't perfect when I did it the first time. So I've done a stencil basically. I've taken this teal paper and I've already die cut the butterfly out, but then I've been able to use the stencil of the paper to actually position it perfectly for the white border around the actual butterfly. So then I'm sticking both of those down onto my my blended butterfly and my embossed butterfly, so that I get a perfect edge all the way around. That's just a trick and tip that I thought of to be able to allow me to give me a white edge without having to mess up the die cutting again. So I'm really, really happy with how this turned out. If you like this video, please give it a like, a comment, and the butterfly that I have just done is going to be used on a Happy Mail. So I'm not going to show you that now. I will come back and show you the Happy Mail another day. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Lots and lots of crafty love from me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.